This is picture of Captain Levi, who is one bad dude. He is really badass and probably strongest, best Titan killer of all humans. So, if you like this drawing, remember to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Attack on Titan, Episode 19, Bite.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Titan Nation. I, of course, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the tantalizing tale of Attack on Titan, also known as Shingeki no Kyojin. Our last episode saw us with really the female Titan bearing down on the Spec Ops squad of Levi's squad. And pretty much everyone, you know, questioning Levi, just looking ahead and not even really paying attention and being like, hey, come on, should we switch to our maneuver gear and take this thing out? At the end of the episode, Levi says, cover your ears, and he goes and fires off a round from his flare gun. We find out, and that's where the episode ends. We find out where this episode picks up, and this episode very much should be called Trust. It's actually called Bite, but it should be called Trust. Trust me. Because that's really what it's all about, and primarily the majority of this episode is also seen through a flashback, but it's still pretty cool material that kind of helps fill in some of the gaps. So they start out, and he fires that round, and like I had thought, it's supposed to be like a noise round or like a concussion grenade type thing. I don't know if it was meant to slow the Titan or if it's meant to let other forces know where they're at as they're riding through the forest. All I know is that this giant she-bitch is bearing down on them, right? And they've still got some of the vanguard, some of the rear squad reinforcements that keep kind of coming up to help, and they're just riding on and riding on. And this is bothering Eren because he's watching this all transpire. Now, everybody else, you know, they just listen to Levi. Even though they don't know what the plan is, they trust their captain. That's why this episode should be called Trust, because it's all about the trust that they've built with him and that he's built with them. Because they're just bearing down, man. They got their head down, they're riding on their horse, you know, on their individual horses. Eren keeps looking back. He's like, another one got taken out, you know, and he's looking back, and what he is that he's basically thinking, man, we need to help them. There's these other squads that are coming in at one and two at a time, and I mean, the female Titan is just smashing them and ripping them apart, and I mean, just destroying them and hardly breaking stride. And Eren's looking at it, it's like, if we put the combined might of Levi's squad together, the Spec Ops squad, we could of course take her down, right? And Levi keeps telling him, you know, no, just stop. And everybody is telling him as well in the squad, you know, Petra and Eren and all them, just, hey, listen, dude, just do your job, okay? You know, Gunther, just do your job. And just listen. So Eren goes to bite himself, right? Because he's like, I can take this into my own hands and bite himself to become a Titan. And Petra comes up and she's like, and she's like, come on, man. You know, just give us a chance. You got to trust us. You got to trust us. And this is what triggers the flashback. What happens is Levi basically says, listen, you know, you do whatever you want, okay? I'm not going to tell you either way, okay? All I know is that I can trust in my own abilities and the people that I trust around me. So if you do the same, then that's your choice. And if you decide to turn into a Titan and screw things up or whatever, or do it, you're going to make your own choice. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm going to hold your hand. I'm not going to hold your hand during this. So that's kind of where he goes with that. And then we see this flashback start. And during the course of that month when they were, of course, training and trying to figure out more about Eren as well and everything like that, the whole squad is out somewhere out in the pasture. And Eren is down in this well. And Hanji's standing over him. And she's like, okay, you know, when I signal with the flare, you know, it's going to be the signal. You bite yourself or whatever you do to turn into a Titan. And they figure the well can contain him in case he can't control himself, right? Because they're going to try to trigger these Titan outbursts and see how we can control them, how we can best maintain them, right? Because that's the whole idea. How can we utilize this? So she goes and fires off the round, and Eren goes and you know, bites into himself and doesn't turn into a Titan. And then they show what we presume is a few minutes later, Hanji over there, and she's, you know, talking with with Levi, and she's like, what the hell, you know, didn't he see the signal? And Levi's like, no. And he basically is just like, he can't change into it whenever he wants. You know, that's what they're figuring out. So they go back over there. Eren has bit the shit out of himself, both hands. I mean, just tore his hands apart or whatever, and they're not even regenerating. So, of course, it's something different. He's a little bit nervous about that. And what he does is he winds up getting getting out of the well, and he's sitting there having lunch with everybody or what have you. He winds up, and he's concentrating. His hands are wrapped now, and he winds up dropping his spoon. Well, as he goes to bend over and make contact with the spoon, he like partially just all of a sudden there's like smoke and there's like a big explosion and there's, you know, guys like, what the hell is going on? Everybody's jumping back. He like partially turns into a Titan. Like his right arm that made contact with the spoon turned into like this big kind of part of a Titan arm, and then he's sort of just standing on top of like stuck into it. And it's really kind of weird, but everybody, you see how jumpy they get. I mean, they almost kill him. I mean, you know, Gunther and Eren, all those guys, they're all like, yeah, make one move, we'll take you out type of thing, you know. And this is where the whole trust thing comes into play, you know. There's also a bit where Levi goes and talks about how they figured out how, if Eren's basically going nuts as the Titan, how they can still save him and get him out of the Titan. And basically what they'll do is they'll make precision strikes on the weak point of the Titan and pretty much pull him out. But it'll wind up cutting off the hands of the tips of his hand or arms and legs, right? And he's like, I don't want that happening. He's like, it's fine. You're like a lizard. It's kind of weird, but they'll grow back, right? And Eren's like, I still don't understand how this power works and everything else. Isn't there another way? But as the trust builds during the course of the episode, we then go and we see Hanji come running, you know, from the forest because she heard the commotion, and she's all like, oh, I want to touch it. And she goes to touch the hand and everything, and she's like, oh, and it burns her, and she's like freaking out. So, you know, but she's, of course, is fascinated with anything that has to do with Titan. She's the Titan lady. So we see, but how everybody is basically like just ready to just gut Eren right then and there, you know. And then what winds up happening is we see, you know, everything kind of settles down or whatever. We can only assume that it does, because then it's later on that night that we see them back at HQ at the Recon training headquarters or whatever, and everybody's kind of standing around or sitting around, you know, maybe at dinner time or supper time or whatever. And basically they go and they kind of come to the conclusion. Hanji comes in and winds up saying something about how the spoon, you know, it being between his thumb and his forefinger and it being metal somehow like conducted. And so it's not only he has to have a clear goal and purpose in mind is what comes from this whole thing. He can't just turn into a Titan just by biting himself. He also has to have a clear purpose, okay? Like when he had to move the boulder, when he had to protect, you know, Armin and Mikasa, those were all things that they gave him a purpose, and that's why he had to turn into a Titan. So it was that strength of purpose, that goal, as well as the self-inflicting wound that he does, right? So the bottom line here is, though, is that the squad winds up going and earning and building his trust, because as they find out more about this and they see, obviously, that this passed and he did not harm them, even though he could have, and he was a Titan, they realize that they were being too hard on him, and they all basically go and frickin' bite down into themselves, you know. We can only assume, you know, that they're, because one of them's like, I can't believe you can do this, you know, and I don't know if Eren just straight up bites his finger off or if he goes down to bone or what. All I know is they basically go and do it as a sign of respect, and they're like, we don't realize what you go through with things, and we're just so scared of you that we're you know, we need to trust each other, and we need to stop being scared of you, and we need to start worrying about how we're going to come together as a group and be able to count on each other, okay, and be able to trust each other. And it's kind of cool because the way the flashback winds up ending with Petra going and saying, so just, you know, give us a chance, like, give us a chance, trust us, right? Then it goes back to her, like, next to him on her horse, you know, riding as they're back in the forest being chased by the female Titan, and he's about to bite down to transform himself, and she's like, just trust us, you know, give us a chance, just trust us. And basically what they're saying is that, you know, whatever Levi knows that they don't know, it's okay because they trust Levi. So Eren goes and decides, even though there's still guys, you know, getting killed left and right behind them that are trying to sacrifice their lives for them, Eren decides to go and trust them. And he says, I'm going to ride forward for humanity type of deal, you know. So he goes and starts chucking on his horse. And the female Titan goes and picks it up, man, and puts it into, like, freaking 5th gear. I mean, she starts cruising there, like, you know, her speed's picking up or whatever. Well, then we go and we see this really cool shot as they're all, like, as Squad Levi, the Spec Ops squad's kind of, like, running through the forest. We see this cool shot from, like, the side and drawn back a little bit of some of the wagons tipped up and some soldiers placed or whatever over there. And then you're starting to think, oh, trap, right? So they go and they, you know, they whatever they call out, or maybe Levi fires something out. However it works, Erwin basically is the one who calls out, you know, fire. And they have these cool looking like harpoon guns, but they almost look like Gatling guns. There's like 6 or 8 or 10 barrels, and they fire these harpoons, and they literally fire like hundreds of them, okay, at the female Titan. And they're basically, you know, attached to these harpoon things, or I don't know if they attach to the trees or what, but it pretty much just puts her in like a web of like these steel rods, you know what I mean? And she's sitting there holding the back of her head, like as to try to protect that, but she looks like she's pretty much immobilized after this. And I mean, it's really cool to see. I mean, you gotta, you know, if you haven't watched it, obviously watch it. If you have watched it, watch it again, because it's cool, man. I mean, it just all of a sudden, and you just see like hundreds of flashes of these things firing out. And next thing you know, I mean, she looks like she just got, you know, it got into a fight with a giant Spider-Man, okay? Because she's like encased in like this webbing, you know, and pretty much held in place and not able to move. So it's kind of cool because then we go and we see Levi kind of like, you know, look back at the squad as of course they've outrun this danger now as she stopped and everything. And Levi goes and says something like, you know, that's why you got to trust in that we knew what we were doing, you know. So the whole thing, the whole time was a trap. I mean, obviously Erwin knew that something was going to come after them, or maybe had a feeling or whatever, and had this plan that Levi obviously knew about, and maybe some others that were his trusted advisors. I don't know. But that's why Levi never looked back. He never wavered because he knew that they were basically to draw the Titan in to this trap, you know, and that they were to be like the decoy, so to speak, to, you know, to draw it in. So it was really, really kind of cool because it's all based on trust, you know what I mean? If Levi didn't trust Erwin, he wouldn't have let, you know, people be in peril and danger and die and everything. He would have basically been like, hey, I'm a badass, I can take this thing out. And if Eren had given in to temptation and maybe transformed into a Titan, maybe he would have gotten his ass kicked. Maybe he would have won. I don't know. But I don't know if they're trying to capture this Titan or trying to figure out, you know, where it came from, who was in it, if there is one, whatever. The point is that the episode is all about trust, trusting your fellow man. And when you're in a situation like this, what do you have if you can't trust the person, you know, next to you? My father was in Vietnam for almost 2 years, for like 20 or 22 months, and that's one of the things that he said was the biggest thing, is that there was no bigotry or racism or anything like that out there, because you know what? You didn't care what color the guy was or what nationality the guy was next to you. You needed to trust that person with your life. If you were in a firefight and that person needed to cover you while you were reloading, or you needed to trust that person to go, and if you were wounded, to pull you out to a medevac, right? So you have to build that cohesive bond within that unit, and with, you know, and as far as the Survey Corps goes, you know, it's probably difficult because they drop so quickly. I mean, their fatality rate's so high. But you see how this squad became the best of the best, leaning on each other, trusting each other, and ultimately trusting in not just their instincts, but in that the person that gave the order, it has their best interests in mind, that they're not just trying to throw bodies at something, you know. So all in all, I thought it was really cool. And, you know, I guess my episode question is, if you will, for the female Titan, I mean, do you think that this is going to hold her? I mean, is this going to, I mean, don't tell me if you've seen ahead, because, you know, I don't want to be spoiled or whatever. I'm trying to get caught up as quickly as I can. But do you think that their plan has worked, and that it will hold the female Titan for whatever purposes they're going to, whether it's for capturing or just to kill or what? I don't know. So that is the question. Leave the answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button there, if you think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, nation.
As always, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters. And remember, join the Nerd Nation. It's the right thing to do. Trust me. Tell them Jim sent you.